Masha met James at a young age, when she was 16 and he was already 24. James turned out to be the older brother of Masha's friend Yulia, and they were classmates. Masha pursued with the fervor of a girl in love, but he rejected her advances and even mocked her, belittling her as a child. However, 2 years later, when Masha turned 18, something seemed to change. On the day of her birthday, James unexpectedly showed up at Masha's house with a bouquet of flowers. Masha was stunned by such a gesture, but accepted him as her guest. "Why such flowers all of a sudden?" she asked, placing the bouquet in a vase. "It's your special day and I wanted to congratulate you," James replied, and kissed her. That started their relationship. James later explained that he avoided having a relationship with Masha while she was underage to avoid any complications. Masha was amazed by his prudence. A year later, James proposed to her. Their wedding was modest, attended only by the closest people. Yulia, Masha's best friend, and James's sister, was happy to see them together. Masha was in her second year of university and James was working 2 jobs to support them financially and allow Masha to focus on her studies without worry. Despite James' mother's misgivings about marrying her son to such a young woman, their family life flourished. "She is not experienced enough yet, James. You should have given her more time," his mother sighed. However, she accepted Masha as a daughter-in-law and loved her as much as she could. James was exhausted at work, but he still tried to spend time with his wife. They both loved going to the movie theater to see new movies. Masha always took popcorn with her, and those few hours spent together were like an escape to another world. Their perfect relationship came to an end when Masha moved to the 3rd year and fell into bad company. She began to skip classes at uni more often, stayed away from home for long periods of time, and came back smelling of alcohol. She stopped talking to Yulia, who refused to socialize with this unpleasant company. "They're pulling you down," shouted James, trying to reason with her, but Masha was stubborn. She was doing the exact opposite of what he wanted. The more James got angry and firmly forbade her from associating with this company, the more she ran away and avoided spending time with the 2 of them. One day, James received a call from Masha's mom and informed him in a somber tone that Masha was likely to leave. She informed him that Masha would likely be expelled from the university. "What are we going to do, Jamie?" she asked. Masha's mom was a simple woman who really wanted her daughter to have a different future and a decent education. That evening, another argument broke out in the couple's home. James accused Masha of ruining her own life, and she responded by throwing dishes and shouting that it was none of his business. "Then why did you choose to be with me in the first place, my love?" Her husband's cup shattered against the wall, shattering to pieces. One day after work, James found his wife gathering her things in the closet. It was the eve of the weekend, and a joyful Masha was packing her bag with all the necessities. "Where are you going?" asked James sternly. "I'm going on vacation with friends," she replied. James, exhausted by the recent controversy, decided not to argue or resist. In fact, he was anticipating a quiet and relaxing evening. However, his plans took an unexpected turn when Masha suddenly suggested, "Join us tomorrow for a night out in nature. Alina and John are bringing tents, and we have sleeping bags. It'll be amazing." At first, James felt that everything was back to normal, but after some thought he agreed. His wife rejoiced and informed him that they would be leaving in an hour. Masha's friend, John, told him over the phone how to get to the usual camping spot. James typed the location into the GPS, and they set off in the car. Some friends who weren't driving were already holding open bottles of alcohol, gathering around. Masha, as the driver, couldn't indulge herself, which caused a slight irritation, but that was quickly smoothed over. Feeling out of place amongst Masha and their friends because of his age, James hesitantly sipped his beer to fit in with the company. After a few drinks, he suddenly realized that Masha was missing. Concerned that she might be in trouble or lost, James, swaying slightly, went in search of his wife. As he looked around, he spotted Robert, the most unpleasant man in the group, which didn't bode well. Robert was known for getting top grades at university not for merit, but for bribes. James stood by the tree, swaying back and forth in rhythm. Jamie didn't realize what was going on at first, but as he approached, he saw his wife Masha standing with her back to Robert. Pressed against the tree trunk, she was covering her mouth with the sleeve of her jacket, muffling any sound. Jamie cursed loudly. Startled, Robert turned, pulled away from Masha, and tried to pull up his pants. Masha tried to button her pants as well, but her hands were unsteady from the alcohol. Hearing the commotion, the others ran up to them. Everyone's faces were shocked when the truth came to them. The boys burst into laughter, and one of the girls burst into tears. She had secretly harbored feelings for Robert, who had heartlessly played with her emotions. Jamie turned away, walking away from the scene where the final blow to his and Masha's marriage had been dealt. Realizing he was in no condition to drive to town, Jamie pulled out of the campground and turned off the highway to hide among the trees. Turning off the car, he fell into a deep reverie and drifted off to sleep. When he awoke to sunlight streaming through the windshield, he found his neck stiff and tears welling up in his eyes as he tried to massage it. His phone screen remained dark, the battery dead, cutting him off from the outside world. Not knowing if Masha was trying to contact him, Jamie decided to head home. When he reached home, Masha was nowhere to be found. Plugging his phone into the charger, Jamie found about 20 missed calls from his wife. Upset, he called his father and asked him to come get Masha's things, resigned to the separation. Concerned, the father inquired about the situation. Jamie simply replied, "I will collect Masha's things and give them to you. They're yours now." Father quickly announced his departure, and in an hour was already in the house. With complete frankness, he recounted to his father-in-law the details of Masha's adventure in the forest with his friend. He sighed and replied, "You are right. Let me help you pack all your things." In the evening of the same day, Masha returned home, where a suitcase with her belongings and her husband, who refused to even look at her, were waiting for her. "I told you," James' mother complained later. "She's still young." When James began divorce proceedings, he decided not to hide the reason from his parents and told them everything at once. Masha's friends turned their backs on her, leaving her isolated from the company she once belonged to. The girls who were with them that ill-fated evening began to spread evil rumors about her. Even Robert, who used to be sensitive to her calls, decided to ignore her and pretended not to notice her at the university. Although her parents were furious, they took her in. Masha, in floods of tears, made a promise to herself to quit drinking and turned her life around. 2 years later, she finished her studies and left her hometown. After a couple more years, James married a girl close to his age, and a year later in their lives appeared twins. From time to time, he thought about his first wife. Secretly, he tried to find her on social media, but found no trace of her. He wondered how Masha's life had turned out after their divorce, but he didn't have the courage to contact her or her parents. Eventually, he gave up trying to find out about her life. After all, to find his current happiness, he needed to leave the past behind.